Mortal Kombat doesn't just have hidden characters, it has Guinness World Records, a character born from misread debugging code, and a developer who hid a secret from his own co-creator for months. For over 30 years, this franchise has been hiding things players are still finding today. Today, we're ranking the 12 best secret characters in MK history, from worst to best. Starting with one that technically isn't even a character, Meat. Meat is not a fighter. He is a fatality. Every time you ripped someone's spine out or blew off their head in Mortal Kombat 4, the game needed a base model underneath the skin to hang that gore on. Exposed muscle tissue, visible bone, mangled flesh. That model was Meat. And then somebody at Midway looked at it and thought, what if we just made that a playable character? Here's how it works. In MK4's group mode, you had to play through the entire roster consecutively, all 15 characters, back to back, no skipping. Clear the whole thing, and the game rewards you by replacing your chosen fighter with Meat, using every move in that character's kit, but wearing the skinless model underneath. No fanfare, no cutscene, just a walking anatomy lesson in the character select screen. But here's the kicker. Meat had zero story in MK4, zero lore, zero ending. He was a walking visual joke with borrowed moves, and no reason to exist beyond the sheer absurdity of it. Midway didn't even bother giving him a fatality, and if you turned the machine off after unlocking him, he was gone. The unlock didn't save. His lore wasn't established until Armageddon in 2006, where he was retconned as a failed experiment of Shang Tsung's who escaped before completion. Art director Steve Barron joked he had a cousin named Scully, just a skeleton with no flesh, who never made it into a game. Classic Meat ranks last on this list not because he's forgettable, but because his entire existence is a punchline. And honestly, that's exactly why he's still being talked about. But if you think a walking anatomy model is a weird secret, wait until you see a character who was literally never in the game but fans convinced themselves existed for years. Tremor. Most secret characters get hidden by developers. Tremor got hidden by history. He first showed up in Mortal Kombat, Special Forces in 2000, a brown palette swap ninja, former Lin Kuei member, one of Kano's Black Dragon enforcers. The game itself was critically panned, one of the worst reviewed entries in the entire franchise, and Tremor went down with it. He was planned for MK Trilogy but got bumped out for Reign. He was rumored for Armageddon but never appeared. For 15 years, he existed as a footnote that nobody asked about, and then fans decided they wanted him back. A Change.org petition titled "Make Tremor a Playable Combatant in Mortal Kombat X" gathered over 4,000 signatures. The noise online got loud enough that Ed Boon tweeted directly, "Damn, you guys really want Tremor?" Boon later told GameSpot, "There was this swell of people pushing for it with petitions and all of this crazy stuff, so we included him. And a big reason was because of fans yelling loud enough. So they brought him back, and they did not hold back." MKX's version of Tremor scrapped every trace of the generic brown ninja and rebuilt him from scratch as a half-stone, half-man-earth elemental with 3 distinct variations. Crystalline turned his body into razor-sharp crystal. Metallic coated him in molten gold. Aftershock gave him seismic shockwaves that cracked the ground under opponents' feet. He was released as MKX's 4th and final DLC character in July 2015, and players who'd been asking for him since the 90s finally had something worth playing. Tremor ranks 11 because his story is genuinely impressive for what it represents. A near-forgotten character from a terrible game, resurrected purely by fan demand 15 years later. That almost never happens. But his actual secret character status is thin. He was never hidden in an arcade cabinet, never required a cheat code, never had an unlock condition worth talking about. He is a great comeback story wearing a secret character's badge, but at least he eventually got in. Unlike the guy coming up next, who spent 15 years as a character fans invented entirely from thin air, Human Smoke. Mortal Kombat 3 made a decision that fans hated immediately and vocally. Smoke, the gray-clad ninja who was one of MK's most beloved hidden characters, got forcibly converted into a cyborg by the Lin Kuei's automation program. His human identity was stripped, his personality was gone, and the community was not okay with it. UMK3 heard them, sort of. Cybersmoke was still on the default roster, but the developers buried his original human form inside the game as a secret, accessible through one of the most demanding simultaneous inputs in classic MK history. Select Cybersmoke on the character select screen. Then, before the round begins, hold back, high punch, high kick, block, and run at the same time, and keep holding until the match starts. If you did it right, Cybersmoke would explode mid-transformation and emerge as his human self. Gray outfit, full ninja moveset, no mechanical parts in sight. And the difference wasn't just cosmetic. Human Smoke played completely differently. Where Cybersmoke fired a chest-launched harpoon and used a mechanical teleport, Human Smoke had Scorpion Spear, a teleport uppercut, and an invisibility move that made him nearly impossible to track mid-fight. Players who found him weren't just getting a skin swap, they were getting a fundamentally different character hidden inside a character they already knew. In MK Trilogy's Nintendo 64 version, he was buried even deeper. Human Smoke was locked behind the same legendary Kombat code 113-840 that revealed Chameleon, a code that went completely undiscovered for 11 years after the game launched. But here's what makes Human Smoke genuinely significant beyond the unlock. The community's preference for him over his robotic version was loud enough and consistent enough that it actually changed the franchise's direction. MK9 in 2011 restored his human form as the primary playable version, full stop. Cyber Smoke was gone. The fans had won. That almost never happens in gaming. A fanbase complaining loudly enough about a character's design to see the developers reverse it years later. Human Smoke is proof that MK was always listening, even when it didn't act like it. What's coming next, though, is a character who wasn't just hidden inside the game. He was hidden inside the background of the game, as decoration, for 10 years before anyone made him real. Blaze. Blaze started as a pixel, a burning, anonymous pixel standing on a bridge in MK2's pit, two-stage background. No name, no lore, no purpose. A decorative, palette-swapped Liu Kang sprite set on fire to make the stage feel alive. Fans noticed immediately, because in Mortal Kombat, anything that moves in the background is automatically a secret character until proven otherwise. They were right, it just took 10 years. In MK Deadly Alliance in 2002, Blaze became playable by completing all 218 Conquest Mode missions and spending 684 Onyx coins to open Coffin PN. His biography revealed he was an Outworld elemental bound by an ancient sorceress sect to guard the last Great Dragon Egg. Decent origin, fine secret character. But then Armageddon happened. MK. Armageddon in 2006 took that anonymous background pixel and made him the final boss of the entire original Mortal Kombat timeline. Every fighter from every era converged on the Pyramid of Argus specifically because of Blaze. He sat at the top as a hulking elemental whose defeat would grant godlike power. Ed Boon confirmed Blaze sits at the top of the franchise's entire power hierarchy. Then Shao Kahn killed him. That single event was so catastrophically destabilizing that it triggered the apocalypse. Raiden, watching reality collapse, sent a message to his past self. That message launched the entire rebooted timeline that became MK9. Everything from 2011 onward in this franchise traces back to a pixel on a bridge in 1993. No secret character has a more absurd trajectory than Blaze. Background decoration to franchise apocalypse catalyst in 13 years. Chameleon. Chameleon holds a record that sounds impossible. She was hidden inside a released commercially available video game with a working unlock code sitting dormant in the cartridge, and nobody found it for 11 years. She first appeared in the Nintendo 64 version of MK Trilogy in 1996. A gray palette female ninja who flickered in and out of visibility, cycling through Kitana's, Jade's, and Melina's full movesets mid-fight. Her life bar name changing color to signal which ninja's kit she was currently using. Blue for Kitana, green for Jade, purple for Melina. She had an actual biography. She had an actual ending. Her lore established her as the last surviving female Saurian, the same reptilian species as Reptile, the sole survivor of Shao Kahn's genocide of her homeworld Zatera, wandering the realms in search of revenge. This was not a cosmetic novelty. This was a fully realized character, and she was Nintendo exclusive. PS1 players, Saturn players, PC players, none of them could access her. She existed only on N64. Multiple unlock methods worked. The most straightforward, during the story screen, press C right, C up, A, B, C down, C up, C right. Shao Kahn's voice would confirm it by saying her name. A toasty method worked on the Starbridge stage, directly homaging how Smoke was found in MK2. Both of these were discovered relatively quickly, but the third method, the combat code 113-840, was not. That code unlocked both Human Smoke and Chameleon simultaneously. It was sitting inside the cartridge from day one of the game's 1996 release. Nobody cracked it until April 26, 2007, when a ROM hacker named Proto-K finally broke it open. 11 years. Ed Boon himself confirmed the code existed and acknowledged that nobody had found it. An unlock method for a character in a game people had been actively playing and dissecting for over a decade, completely undiscovered. She returned in the Wii version of MK Armageddon in 2008 with an expanded backstory and a fresh unlock method through that game's Conquest mode, MK1's Chaos. Rain's expansion in 2024 brought her back as a cameo fighter, the first time she ever had spoken dialogue in franchise history. Chameleon ranks 8th because the 11-year buried code alone puts her in a category almost nothing else in gaming can reach. The Nintendo exclusivity, the genuine lore, the cycling moveset mechanic. She is the franchise's deepest legitimate buried treasure, but right behind her is a character the developers planted as a total fake and somehow created one of the most passionate fan bases in MK history anyway. Rain. Rain is the only character on this list who was never in the game he was advertised in. Not hidden, not locked behind a code, not buried in a cartridge waiting to be found. Just completely absent. A deliberate lie planted by Ed Boon to drive arcade players out of their minds. In UMK3's Attract mode, a purple palette-swapped ninja appeared on-screen fighting Shao Kahn. Players saw him and immediately started feeding quarters trying to unlock him. Nothing worked because there was nothing to unlock. Rain had zero character data in the arcade ROM. He was a visual built by Boon, manually assembling the word Rain out of individual font tiles, dropped into the Attract sequence specifically to cause chaos. One Kombat code in the arcade triggered the message Rain can be found in the graveyard, which was almost certainly another joke. Possibly a reference to the musician Prince being metaphorically dead in the music industry at the time. Boon later explained it without any remorse whatsoever. Rain was me being a jerk, basically. I was thinking, what ninja color have we not done yet? And I'm a huge Prince fan, so I was thinking Purple Rain. Purple. There was no time to actually make a character, so I hacked into the Attract screen a quick little sequence of this purple ninja. I included this quick glimpse just to drive people crazy. He drove people crazy for months. Then Midway added Rain to the SNES and Genesis console ports of UMK3 as a real playable character, alongside Noob Saibot, to compensate for Shiva being cut due to cartridge space limitations. He was fully playable in MK Trilogy in 1996 with mind control orbs, lightning projectiles, and a roundhouse kick that launched opponents completely off the screen. His backstory cast him as an Edenian prince, another layer of the Prince tribute. In MK Deception, Jade delivers the line, Purple. Rain chooses his wardrobe most curiously. The fanbase he built from that single fake Attract mode appearance was fiercely loyal. Players who never unlocked him because he was literally impossible to unlock still remembered him, still wanted him, and kept asking for him across every game that followed. That campaign eventually succeeded in MK11, where Rain returned with his most complete moveset ever, bending water, blood, and weather itself as a fully realized Edenian demigod. Rain ranks 6 because only Ed Boon could manufacture a secret character so beloved that fans spent 15 years demanding him back, and he technically was not in a single game in the first place. But the next character on this list was never in any game either, except her story is not a prank. It is something stranger. Scarlet. Scarlet never existed in MK2. No glitch. No red palette swap hiding in Kitana's sprite data. Nobody saw a red female ninja flash across their screen in 1993. It did not happen, but thousands of people swore it did. The rumor surfaced in the mid-90s. Players claimed that under specific conditions, Kitana would briefly flash red. The character got a name, the Lady in Red, then eventually Scarlet. Message boards filled with fake unlock methods. ROM hackers dove into MK2's code and found nothing. No red Kitana data existed anywhere. Ed Boon has been definitive. She was a completely rumored character. She never existed. There was never a glitch that turned Kitana red. That was just an urban legend like Animalities and Ermac, a rumor that we eventually wanted to make true. That last part is the key. Midway had done this once already with Ermac, a character born from fan speculation, willed into existence because the legend outgrew the lie. Scarlet was the second time that pipeline worked. In September 2010, Boon tweeted a teaser of an unknown red-clad female character's leg. Nothing else. The internet erupted. Data miners confirmed she was real before any official announcement. She launched as MK9's first DLC character on June 21, 2011, built entirely around the rumor that created her. Her power is blood magic. She transforms into blood, absorbs opponents' blood to heal, weaponizes it as projectiles and blades, assembled from the blood of warriors who died in Shao Kahn's service. A character made of blood, born from a rumor about a red glitch. MK11 brought her back as a base roster character in 2019. Scarlet proves that in Mortal Kombat, the community's belief in a character can be powerful enough to force them into existence. She is the purest example of that phenomenon. Smoke. Every secret character on this list requires something from you. A win streak, a cheat code, a specific buttonhole, but Smoke is the only one where the trigger is something that happens to you, randomly, mid-fight, and you have roughly 2 seconds to react or the window is gone forever. In MK2, Smoke was a gray palette-swapped ninja hiding in the trees of the Living Forest stage, dropping cryptic messages between matches. He was real, he was in the game, but finding him required a fight on a specific stage, and a piece of information almost nobody had. The unlock. Fight on the portal stage. Land uppercuts until Dan Forden pops up in the bottom right corner of the screen. If you have ever played a Mortal Kombat game from this era, you know Dan Forden. He is the sound designer whose face appears briefly after particularly brutal hits, shouting "Toasty" in a high-pitched falsetto. That moment. During the exact window his face is visible, you press down and start simultaneously. The screen cuts to Goro's lair, and Smoke drops in to fight you, running through Scorpion's entire moveset at extreme speed. The Toasty pop-up itself has a backstory. Forden would taunt Ed Boon during office games of super high-impact football with the phrase "I predict toast," which evolved over time into the falsetto Toasty. That became one of gaming's most recognizable Easter eggs. Boon tied Smoke's unlock directly to it, meaning the secret character trigger was itself a secret about the development team's internal culture that nobody outside Midway would have known. MK3 transformed Smoke into a cyborg, as covered already, but also gave him a proper arcade unlock. The code 10902222234 entered on the game over screen brought him into the roster. His portrait was hidden behind a rotating dragon symbol on the character select screen. Players who didn't know exactly where to look would scroll past him every single time without realizing he was there. The community's response to Smoke across his various appearances is consistently one of the warmest in MK history. He is not a villain. He is not ambiguous. He is a fighter who was betrayed by his own clan, had his humanity ripped away, and kept his identity alive as a secret inside a robot body. The tragedy of that arc combined with one of the most creative unlock mechanics in franchise history makes him one of the most beloved characters the series has ever produced. Smoke ranks 5th because the Toasty trigger is genuinely irreplaceable. Nobody else uses a sound designer's face as a keyhole. Nobody else makes you react in real time to a random event you cannot control. It is the most human unlock condition in a franchise full of cheat codes and win streaks, and it produced a character the community has never stopped loving. Coming up next is the secret character who established the template for every female hidden fighter that followed her, Jade. Jade is the first hidden female fighter in Mortal Kombat history, and the conditions required to find her are so specific, so deliberately punishing, that most players who stumbled across her had no idea how they did it. In MK2's single-player ladder, reach the match immediately before the question mark on the battle plan. That match, the one right before the randomized secret fight slot, is your window. Win at least one round using nothing but the low kick button and directional movement. No punches, no high kick, no block, no special moves. Low kick only for an entire round against a fully capable AI opponent. If you pulled it off, the game transported you to Goro's lair to fight a green palette swapped katana with darker skin tones, and one ability that set her apart from every other MK2 secret character. Jade was immune to projectiles. Completely. Every fireball, every spear, every fan throw passed through her body like she was made of smoke. The immunity was built directly into her character data, not a move she activated or a stance she took. It was always on. You could throw projectiles at Jade for the entire fight and accomplish nothing. That detail matters because it wasn't just a gimmick. It was a design statement. Jade was not a recycled palette swap with borrowed moves and nothing else. She had a mechanical identity that made fighting her fundamentally different from fighting anyone else in the game. She punished players who leaned on projectile spam, which in MK2 was almost everyone. She also dropped hints between matches that are worth examining. "One day we will fight" was straightforward enough, but Hornbuckle Who was not. Jade's message referenced a name from the game's credits, specifically Leanne Hornbuckle, but players in 1993 interpreted it as naming the green Liu Kang figure visible in the Pit 2 stage background. That misreading spawned one of MK's most persistent myths, a rumored character called Hornbuckle, who players insisted was hidden somewhere in the game. He was not. He was never anything except a decorative background sprite and a name misread from a credits shoutout. But Jade's cryptic message kept the rumor alive for years. She became fully playable in UMK3 with an entirely original moveset. The steel bow staff, razor rang boomerangs that curved back to her on return, the blazing nitro kick, and a timed dodging shadows ability that preserved her MK2 projectile immunity as an activatable special. Actress Catalin Zamiar conceived the green color scheme during brainstorming, and that choice aged remarkably well. Jade became one of the franchise's most recognizable and consistently popular female characters across every era she appeared in. Jade ranks 4th because she was first, because her unlock condition was genuinely punishing in a creative way, and because she brought something mechanically unique to a roster of palette swaps. She earned her spot on the ladder rather than just appearing on it. But next is the character who turned a developer's private joke into one of gaming's most beloved storylines without anyone realizing what was happening for months. Noob Saibot. Ed Boon hid a character from his own co-creator, coded him in secretly, named him after both of them as a private joke, and John Tobias did not find out until months after MK2 was already in arcades. Noob Saibot is a solid black silhouette. No visible features, no color, no detail, just a void in the shape of a person using Scorpion's moveset, lurking in Goro's lair. His name is Tobias, and Boon spelled backwards. The name alone should have been the tell, but nobody outside the development team knew both surnames well enough to decode it in 1993. To trigger the fight in MK2, you had to win 50 consecutive matches in two-player versus mode, not 50 matches total, 50 in a row. On Sega Genesis, the threshold was 25. A SNES shortcut existed for those who knew it. Back, up, down, forward, select at the character select screen. But in the arcade, which is where most players lived, it was 50 straight wins, which meant finding an opponent willing to absorb that many losses or being so dominant at a cabinet that you ran the table on everyone who sat down across from you. Boon's own explanation of what happened is one of the best developer stories in gaming history. He told Polygon, "I may have wanted to keep that one for myself," again to see how long he would naturally be discovered. I do remember coming up with that dumb backwards name as another layer. That might also explain why he is just all black pixels. If John made his palette, it would have looked a lot better. Tobias's reaction, shared publicly in 2021, was equally good. Not only had Ed snuck a third secret character into MK2 behind our backs, it felt like he was poking fun at me by naming it Noob Saibot. But here is where Noob Saibot stops being a prank and becomes something genuinely important to the franchise's lore. Years later, the black silhouette in Goro's lair was revealed to be Bi-Han, the original Sub-Zero from MK1, the fighter Scorpion killed in the first game, resurrected not as a hero, not as himself, but as a corrupted wraith stripped of identity and humanity, reduced to a shadow with borrowed moves. The name Noob Saibot, which started as Boon goofing on his co-creator, retroactively became the alias of a dead man whose soul was consumed by the Netherrealm. That recontextualization connected two of the franchise's most important characters across games and retroactively gave a palette swap joke one of the darkest origin stories in the entire roster. The community has never stopped ranking him among MK's best fighters, not just as a secret character, but as a character period. Noob Saibot ranks third because the behind-the-scenes story is unmatched. The lore payoff is extraordinary, and the sheer audacity of hiding a character from your own co-creator and naming it after both of you is exactly the kind of move that defines what makes Mortal Kombat's secret character tradition unlike anything else in the genre. What comes next is not a prank. It is not a fan rumor. It is the character who started all of this. Ermac. Ermac is the most powerful example in gaming history of a community collectively believing something into existence. He was never in Mortal Kombat 1. He was never in MK2. There was no Red Ninja, no hidden fight, no secret encounter. The entire mythology started with a single line in MK1's arcade diagnostic menu, Ermax. It stood for Error Macros. It was a debugging counter Ed Boon wrote to catch code errors, sitting directly below the entry that tracked reptile encounters. Players saw it, saw Reptile's counter right above it, and concluded they had found evidence of a second hidden character. The rumor exploded fast. EGM magazine published a letter from a reader named Tony Casey in October 1993, accompanied by a doctored Polaroid showing a red-tinted scorpion labeled Ermac wins. It looked real enough that readers flooded the magazine with their own fake unlock methods. Arcades filled with players trying conditions that led nowhere because the destination did not exist. Midway's response was to lean directly into it. The MK2 developers buried a scrambled message inside the game's ending sequence. CEAMRO DSENTOEXITS. Unscrambled, that reads ERMACDOESNOTEXIST. They were telling players to their faces that the character was a myth, and the community treated it as confirmation that something was being covered up. Boon made it worse by telling interviewers with a straight face that no one has found Ermac in Mortal Kombat 1 yet. He was not lying. There was nothing to find. But the phrasing kept every believer exactly where he wanted them. By 1995, the legend had grown so large that Midway made a decision that had never been made in gaming before. They created the character retroactively. Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 introduced Ermac as a real, playable red ninja wielding telekinetic powers, a fusion of thousands of deceased warriors' souls bound together inside a single body. His lore was constructed entirely around the mythology that fans had invented for him. The amalgamation concept, The red color, the idea of something ancient and powerful lurking just out of sight, all of it came from 2 years of internet speculation and playground rumor. Boone confirmed the truth definitively in 2011. He wasn't a character. He was a macro I wrote for catching code errors. MK. Deception's training mode put it plainly in official text. It is a little-known fact that Ermac is short for error macro, and yet none of that diminished him. Ermac became one of the franchise's most consistently popular characters. His telekinetic moveset was genuinely distinctive. His lore of being a composite soul entity gave him philosophical depth that most of the roster lacked. He anchored story moments across Deception, MK9, and MKX. He returned as a fully redesigned lead character in MK1 2023, with an expanded role and new design language, only for the game's story to kill him in one of its most emotionally significant moments. Ermac ranks second because his story is the most remarkable in MK's entire secret character tradition. A debugging counter misread by players, amplified by a magazine hoax, sustained by developer trolling, and eventually transformed into one of the franchise's most beloved fighters. No other character in gaming has that origin, not one, but there is still one left, and it is the only one that has a Guinness World Record attached to it. Reptile. On a Sunday afternoon in 1992, Ed Boon drove to a KFC, sat in the drive-thru, and invented the secret character. Not the concept in the abstract, the actual thing. The first hidden fighter in fighting game history, certified by Guinness World Records. Boon coded Reptile into MK1's third arcade revision in a single evening without telling co-creator John Tobias, without telling anyone on the team, without a plan beyond wanting to see how long it would take the world to notice. The answer was not long. Reptile is a green palette swap combining Scorpion's sprite and Sub-Zero's sprite, running both characters' movesets simultaneously at double speed. To find him, every single condition had to be met at the exact same time. You had to be on the pit stage in single-player mode. A silhouette had to fly across the moon, an event that occurred roughly once every 6 game cycles, meaning most sessions at a cabinet would never trigger it at all. You had to win a double flawless victory, both rounds, 0 damage received. You could not block a single time during the entire fight, and you had to finish with a character-specific fatality, not the pit stage hazard, a proper input fatality from your selected character's moveset. Miss any one condition and nothing happened. No fight, no message, no acknowledgement that you had done anything. Clear all of them, and the game sent you a message. You have found me, now prove yourself. Then it dropped you to the pit bottom, a stage that existed nowhere else in the game, accessible only through this encounter. Defeating Reptile awarded 10 million points. He dropped cryptic hints between rounds that are worth reading in full. Alone is how to find me. Blocking will get you nowhere. Perfection is the key. Tip et faux modob. That last one is bottom of the pit spelled backwards. The same backwards text language Boone would later use with Noob Saibot's name. He was encoding the instructions inside the game itself, hiding the directions to the secret inside the secret. John Tobias found out the same way everyone else did. Boone had pulled it off so cleanly that MK's co-creator was learning about the game's most significant content discovery from the outside. Tobias later said the original hidden characters were such a closely kept secret that he believes Boone was pranking him personally. Boone's response to all of it was straightforward. I always wanted to see a question mark over the game. I didn't want anyone ever thinking that they knew everything that's in the game. That philosophy became Mortal Kombat's defining creative identity. Reptile didn't just create a character, he created a culture. Every secret character in this franchise, every Ermac rumor, every Rain fakeout, every buried combat code sitting undiscovered for 11 years. Every red ninja that players swore they glimpsed for a split second before the screen went back to normal. All of it traces back to one green palette swap coded on a Sunday afternoon while Ed Boon was waiting for his food. Reptile became fully playable in MK2 with his own unique moveset. He's appeared in almost every mainline entry since, eventually receiving the name Syzoth in MK1 2023, and a full character arc as one of the most sympathetic figures in the rebooted timeline. He went from a secret design to last a few months to a character who has anchored the franchise for over 30 years. He ranks first because there is no conversation. Everything starts here. Every secret character in gaming starts here. The shadow on the moon, the double flawless, the message in reverse text. Reptile is not the best character in Mortal Kombat, but he is the most important secret in the history of the medium, and nobody else on this list exists without him. If you enjoyed this video and want to see most loved versus most hated characters in Mortal Kombat, click the video on the screen now.